It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. That's all Emily wanted, 2 days away from her ringing phone, work emails, and the constant buzz of city life. She wasn't some thrill seeker or a seasoned hiker. She just needed a break. A cabin in the woods sounded perfect. A little Airbnb deep in the forests of northern Minnesota, perched on the edge of a silent lake with no neighbors for miles. When she pulled up that Friday evening, just before dusk, she felt like she had stepped into a postcard. The lake reflected the fading sunset like glass, and the trees tall. Black silhouettes stood around her like ancient guardians. Emily remembered smiling as she dragged her suitcase up the creaky porch steps. The world felt still, peaceful, but peace can be deceptive. The first night, Emily had barely finished unpacking when she noticed something odd. The woods were too quiet. There were no crickets, no frogs, no wind whistling through the pines. It wasn't the pleasant silence of solitude. It felt wrong. She brushed it off, made herself a cup of tea, and curled up by the window with a book. The stars were breathtaking out here, bright enough to cast faint shadows on the ground. That's when she noticed it. Across the lake, just beyond the tree line, a light flickered. It wasn't a flashlight beam sweeping around. No, it was stationary, dim, like a lantern. Emily leaned closer to the window, frowning. There weren't supposed to be any other cabins out here. The Airbnb listing had bragged about total isolation. Maybe it was just a reflection from her own cabin's lights on the water. But the light didn't flicker like a reflection. It blinked, slowly, deliberately. She closed the curtains, telling herself she was overthinking. People camp all the time. Maybe someone had pitched a tent across the lake. Still, she locked the door's front and back and turned off every light before crawling into bed. Sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the cabin made her flinch. At one point, she swore she heard footsteps outside on the porch. Slow, heavy ones. She held her breath and listened, clutching the blanket tight, but the sound faded into the night. By morning, she'd convinced herself she had just been paranoid. Dead. 2. Saturday was gorgeous. Emily went for a walk along the lake, snapping photos of the mist curling over the water. She found no signs of campers on the opposite shore, no tent, no fire pit, nothing. Probably just some fishermen passing through, she muttered to herself. But as she was heading back, she noticed something strange. Her cabin door was open. She froze. She was absolutely sure she'd locked it. Her stomach turned cold. She crept closer, heart pounding, scanning the ground for footprints. The dirt path was too dry to hold any. Inside, everything looked untouched. Her bag was still zipped, her phone charging on the counter. Nothing missing. Just wrong. Emily searched every room, even checked under the bed like a scared child. Nobody. Still, she locked the door again, this time shoving a chair under the knob. She tried to laugh it off, but unease crawled under her skin and stayed there. That night, she kept the lights off, sat by the window again, and stared out at the lake. And like clockwork, the light returned. This time, it wasn't across the lake. It was at the edge of the woods. On her side, the knock. Emily grabbed her phone to call anyone, but there was no signal. Not even one bar. She ducked away from the window, heart racing. Who would be out here at this hour in pitch black woods, holding a lantern? She told herself to calm down, to think rationally, but then she heard it. Knock. Knock. Someone was at the door. She froze, breath caught in her throat. No one should know she was here. No one was supposed to be anywhere near this cabin. The knocks came again, slower, heavier, like whoever it was had all the time in the world. Emily didn't move. She stayed perfectly still, crouched by the bed as the knocking grew louder. After a long pause, it stopped. Then came footsteps. Dragging. Moving around the cabin. Emily's mind screamed at her to hide, so she slid under the bed, trying not to breathe too loudly. She could hear the crunch of leaves outside as whoever it was circled the cabin. Then, silence. Minutes crawled by. She dared to peek out from under the bed, her phone clutched tight, still useless. She thought maybe, just maybe, they had left. And then a shadow passed by the window. Trapped. Emily stayed under the bed for over an hour, muscles aching, terrified to move. At some point, exhaustion got the better of her, and she slipped into a light, restless sleep. She woke up at dawn. The cabin was eerily still. Cautiously, she crawled out from under the bed and checked every window. No one was there. No footprints. She half laughed in disbelief, convincing herself she had hallucinated from exhaustion and fear. That morning, she packed her bag. She wasn't staying another night. But when she got to her car, her blood ran cold. Both tires on the driver's side were slashed. Panic set in. She had no way out. No cell service. No neighbors. She felt trapped. The lantern. By late afternoon, Emily was pacing the cabin, trying to figure out what to do. She considered hiking back to the main road, but the thought of walking through those woods alone made her skin crawl. Then she saw it again. The lantern. It flickered in the trees, closer than ever. Emily ducked low, heart pounding. Whoever was out there knew she was stranded. They were toying with her. She locked herself in the bathroom, clutching a kitchen knife, praying for daylight. But as night fell, the knocking returned. This time it wasn't slow or deliberate. It was frantic. Bang, bang, bang. She screamed, backing into the bathtub, knife shaking in her hand. The knock stopped suddenly, replaced by a soft voice. Emily. Her stomach dropped. Nobody here knew her name. The chase. That was it. She couldn't stay trapped anymore. Emily grabbed her bag, stuffed her phone and flashlight inside, and climbed out the bathroom window. She landed hard on the damp grass, biting back a cry of pain. She didn't look back. She ran. Branches whipped her arms and face as she bolted through the woods. Her flashlight beam shook wildly, barely lighting the path ahead. Every snap of a twig behind her sent her heart racing faster. Emily. The voice echoed through the darkness, taunting. She ran until her lungs burned, finally stumbling onto a dirt road. In the distance, she saw headlights. A car. She waved her arms frantically, screaming for help. The car slowed. Relief flooded her until she saw who was inside. It was a man, middle-aged, wearing a hunting jacket. And in his hand, resting casually on the passenger seat, was the lantern. The escape. Emily didn't hesitate. She bolted into the trees, ignoring his shouts. The sound of his footsteps thundered behind her, twigs snapping under his boots. She pushed herself harder, adrenaline giving her speed she didn't know she had. And then headlights again, this time from behind. A second car screeched to a halt, and a woman's voice yelled, "Hey! You okay?" Emily stumbled toward the car, sobbing incoherently. The woman threw open the door and yanked her inside, locking it just as the man burst from the tree line. He slammed his fists on the hood, screaming, but the woman floored the gas pedal, tearing down the road. Emily looked back one last time. The man stood in the middle of the road, lantern glowing faintly, watching. Aftermath. Police arrived hours later. They searched the area, but found no sign of the man or the lantern. No footprints. No tire marks. Nothing. Emily's slashed tires were real. The cabin door being open was real. The voice calling her name, it was real too. But to this day, nobody knows how he knew who she was or why he was waiting for her in those woods. Emily never went camping again. And sometimes late at night when her phone rings with an unknown number, she swears she can hear a faint, rasping voice whisper her name. Emily's chest burned as she stumbled into the forest, branches slapping her face and arms. Every instinct screamed at her, "Don't look back." But she couldn't shake the image of that man, standing in the middle of the road, lantern glowing faintly in the dark. The voice that had called her name still echoed in her ears, rasping and deliberate. Her flashlight, barely keeping the path ahead visible, trembled in her hands. Twigs snapped behind her. He was following her. She didn't dare turn her head. Each step forward felt like moving through molasses, the forest twisting around her like a living maze. "Emily," the whisper came again, closer. Her heart froze. The darkness seemed to press in from all sides. Sweat poured down her face, stinging her eyes. She ran blindly, tripping over roots, scraping her hands on bark. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. The first encounter. She remembered the stories she had laughed off before, people going missing in these woods. Now she understood why. The man wasn't just stalking her. He seemed to know every step she would take. Every time she thought she had put distance between them, she'd catch a faint movement in the trees, a lantern light flicker in the corner of her eye. Emily ducked behind a tree, holding her breath. Footsteps stopped. Silence. And then, a low chuckle, echoing through the pines, like it came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. She darted into a clearing, hoping to find a road. Moonlight glimmered on a narrow dirt path. She ran toward it, lungs screaming for oxygen, limbs heavy with panic. But the path ended at a small creek. Water splashed over her sneakers as she scrambled across, the sound of footsteps thundering right behind her.